Hello, welcome to 15 Minutes of Consulting Best Practices. My name is Maria Isabel Rios. I am joined by David A. Field. As you folks know, we dive right into questions that you submit. And so, David, why don't you get it started?
Okay, let's see. Deidre, what's the first question? I'll read it and Maria Isabel will answer. With layoffs and market conditions as they are right now, are you seeing a major increase in the number of independent consultants / solo practitioners out there? From Paul. Okay, well, Maria Isabel, go for it. What do you think?
Thank you, Paul. Our tribe is really varied. The majority of our clients are boutique firms. Thank you, Donald. I appreciate that. Very kind comment. Given the variances in our tribes and that we work a lot in close contact with boutique firms, I have to say, not really. Not anything close to 2021, where we saw a real tide of folks leaning into remote working and consulting. David, agree, disagree?
Yeah, from what I can tell, I mean, you lead our solo work, so you know better. I think you probably have a better handle. From what I can sense, I haven't seen the influx of folks into solos that's greater than we typically see. And I think the big influxes have been from, I mean, there might be in some sectors, but I don't have good evidence for it. For instance, where there's been a lot of layoffs in tech, some of those folks might become consultants. Probably most of them on the implementation platform expert side. That'd be my guess on that one. But again, I think you know better, Maria Isabel.
Yeah, my answer is not really.
Okay.
What I am curious about, it's what's the question behind the question. You know, we encourage all of you to ask this while you do discovery, because I would like to know where Paul is coming from. Is he wanting to corroborate some of what he's seeing, or is he worried about the outlook in the market? And then our answer may change. So if you listen to us right now live, let us know. If not, drop a note in the comments or send us an email. I'm curious where you were coming from.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's I would be really curious to hear from listeners and other folks whether they're seeing it. If Paul's here, I'd like to know what his question behind the question is. But other folks, whether you're seeing more new practitioners in the market. I suppose another way we would get an indicator is if there were a lot more new folks trying to sign up for the Solo Practice Accelerator, and I don't think we've seen an unusual number that are just launching.
We're also waitlisted, and so new folks may see that with trepidation. All right, fair, all of that. Whatever you know, we want to know. Share with us, especially if you're seeing something different than what we shared, but also if you agree.
Yeah.
Deidre, right. Next question. All right. If my client is paying a retainer for consulting and implementation, and the implementation part goes away, I was trying to figure out what percentage of the value is the implementation part. I know you love these questions, David, when there are, how do I structure my work and how do I tackle it? So go for it.
Okay, so this one is funny. There's some assumptions built in. So I'm going to assume the person who sent it in, when they say consulting and implementation, when you say consulting, I think you're referring to advisory services, because there are certainly plenty of consulting firms who would say, well, we do implementation. That's part of our consulting. And in fact, this week's article is going to be talking a little bit about that. So, having said that, the bottom line is there's no rule for this. The split between advice and implementation could be 95% on the advisory side, or it could be 95% on the implementation side. We have some general guidelines we think about when we're considering the risk-adjusted value of a project, that coming up with a strategy might be 30%-ish. And coming up with the actual plan to implement it might be 30%-ish, and the implementation is 40%. But those are like really, really rough guidelines. And I honestly, I wouldn't use that. I think you have to set aside whatever you've done in the past and consider what the value is of your work right now. And so you go into that by just thinking about yourself, and also by asking your client. You might even want to have a new context discussion, or at least part of a context discussion. Say, look, now that we've accomplished this much of the project, let's talk about the remainder of the project. What's the value of that? What would we be doing to help? And how much value is there in that? And then you come up with fees that make sense. I think just setting a straight percentage or cutting them in half or something like that doesn't make sense. It's possible the advice is even more important now. So that's where I would head. Maria Isabel, anything to add? And again, if there are questions, follow-on questions, ask them. But Maria Isabel, what do you think?
I'm in absolute agreement. I think a part of the trap we come into is in saying, okay, half of the deliverables are done, or a quarter of the deliverables are done, and that's the proportion of the value. Not really. Plus, things change in mix and intensity during the project, right? So as part of your retainers, you need to be looking and thinking about that. So I think we have a follow-on question from Clive. I have a 3-year contract on implementation based on my personal brand. How do I contract consultant fixed? Consultant meaning fixed for a year, and contract on this basis. David, you want to take a stab?
I'm not 100% clear on the question. So Clive, I'm going to ask you to restate the question. I get that it looks like you've won a contract. I can't tell whether there's a follow-on and you want to sell someone else into the client. If you wouldn't mind taking a moment and restate it, we'll absolutely answer that. Also, someone asked, is it the best way to gain feedback on a pressing consulting related issue besides asking here? You can ask here. If the obvious answer, of course, is become a client. So this is what we do full time, is we help consultants answer pressing and non-pressing issues to build their firm. So I would, just send a note to support@davidafields.com, or go to the website and fill out a contact form and talk with us. What do you think, Maria Isabel? Is that a fair answer, or you want to throw another idea?
Absolutely. Or you're on LinkedIn. Ping us, right? Write us a message, and we'll take it from there. Right here. All right.
There you go. That was a nicer answer than become a client, but become a client. All right.
Thank you, Christy, also for sharing your views on HR consulting and how there are quite a few more folks in your field.
That is helpful. I agree.
Appreciate that. All right.
All right. What's the next question? Let's as Clive is writing more context. I'll ask you this one, Maria Isabel. How do I find a way of getting clients to understand that they have more problems than just a proposed study, especially when other consultants won't reply with similar activities that need to be done?
Oh, I love this question.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Because this is a question between the fundamental difference of if you want a consultant to do certain steps, or you want a consultant to achieve certain outcomes for your firm. And the beginning of the process in this is reframing. So reframe is a full topic onto itself. We have articles on our site. You can look for them. We also teach it in our work with clients. It's that important. It's worth learning how to do and learning how to apply it in the context of your core model, which is important, right? How does that reframing look for you and your view of the world? Putting that aside, because it's bigger than today, if you're in conversation, reframe as you're having your context discussion. So when your client is talking to you about a piece and explaining it as a little window in their whole view, expand that window, make it deeper, make it wider, so that you understand the whole picture. And you invite them to think about the whole picture in the context of that process. That is something most consultants don't do in their discovery process. It's very powerful, and it's one of the key tools in our toolbox. Now, say you're not in conversation. So this is an RFP, right? Which is probably the origin of this question, because you've heard us talk about your context discussion and reframing before. You can use how you build alternatives as a reframing tool. So back to reframing. So typically, alternative one will answer or propose around the exact steps the client asked for. And you build alternatives 2 and 3 to say, look, even more powerful than that is to answer the underlying question, or what is most likely the situation that's generating this problem or that will create further impact for you. You build that in your preface to why you are articulating a second alternative and a third alternative, and you make that recommendation. So reframing, reframing, reframing. David, what do you think?
I think that's the perfect answer. Reframing is easier said than done. It is a skill that you have to learn and practice. And having a core model, having Instagraphics that you've prepared and practiced makes a big difference. I agree with you, though, 100%. I got nothing to add. That was perfect.
All right, so on to the next question.
Okay.
Okay, this one is for you, David. What do you think about creating a Google form for feedback from folks that attended an event I was the consultant for? At the end, I got great feedback and would love to capture more than just the main lead's opinion and experience from Desta.
Okay. Yeah, this is a great idea. Go ahead and do that. So a Google form to collect feedback, perfect. Any other form to collect feedback? Awesome. There are some apps that will allow you to collect very quickly and easily video feedback. Something back in the old days when we used to see clients in person that we would do after a session, a group session sometimes, especially when there's buzz in the room, we would get participants just using our phone and say, what do you think went well? How did this go? And it turns into almost little mini testimonial videos. Those can be great, but there are apps that will collect feedback for you. And using a Google form, I think is great. Basically, the more feedback you get from clients, the better. And I would encourage you to use sort of a sandwich, if you will, of something positive, what went well. Also, do get feedback on where you can improve. That is, don't be afraid of that. Get that feedback because it stretches you and allows you to build yourself as a firm. And then you might want to get another round of positive. So the last thing they're left with is something positive about you. Well, what added the most value in this session? What did you like most? That kind of thing. What would you recommend this to somebody else? And if so, why? So you're ending on a positive. What do you think, Marie Isabel? Yay, nay? Anything to add?
Absolutely. What I heard you say, David, in this is make getting feedback a regular practice for you.
Yes.
So that it's not just because you were an event. Any client interaction, get feedback throughout, get feedback at the end. Is that right, David? That's what you...
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, absolutely. And we do that, and we encourage our clients to do that, to build it into your client experience. So wow, holy cow, that was a quick 15 minutes. So for all of you who are here, either live or watching on the replay, 3 really quick requests. If you're not connected to Maria Isabel on LinkedIn, or you're not connected to me, please connect. Deidre has put down there our LinkedIn, whatever they're called, handles, IDs. And so just connect to us. We'd love to connect with you and have conversation. Secondly, we've noticed that a number of people who come to this don't get our weekly articles. So subscribe and get the articles. There's so much great content in there, plus a few too many puns. So davidafields.com/subscribe, and you'll get the weekly article, which I highly recommend. And finally, submit more questions. You can see we get a lot of questions, and we love them, and we love taking them live. But you can send things to info@davidafields.com. One thing I don't think we have a banner for yet, but just to let you know, because people have asked for, like, how can I subscribe every week? for people who do get our weekly article, we'll let you know soon. We have a single link you can go to every week. It will be davidafields.com/Monday Live. And it will take you to the latest one. So at any rate, really appreciate you being here. Maria Isabel, thanks for letting me back in the room. The rest of you, thanks for being here. Have a fabulous week. Remember, consulting is about them, your clients, and their prospects. Give them value, give them kindness, and we will see you next week.
Ciao.